Deadly shooting at an ICE facility in Dallas. It comes after a shooter opened fire near that facility, killing 2 people, injuring a third, and all of those victims are ICE detainees, according to an ICE spokesperson. We have NBC's Jay Gray. He is in Dallas on the ground. Jay, what's the latest that you're hearing here as we await this press conference?
Yes, Savannah, still multiple federal agencies on the ground, as well as Dallas police. As you talk about, we're waiting to hear not only from the chief of police, but the mayor of Dallas, just a few short steps away. They're expected to walk to the podium at any point. We have just heard, in fact, I think they're there now. Let's listen in.
Prayer, and that prayer changes things. And so I'm going to ask everyone, please join me in praying for the families of the folks who lost their lives today. Pray for the speedy recovery for those who are hurt and were injured in what happened today. But maybe even more to the point, we're a country and a city that needs prayer. So I'm going to ask you all to join me also in praying for this city, that we can come together at a time like this, and that we can be there for one another the way we always have in times like this, to support one another.
Shalom. First thing and foremost, I'm going to give all praises and glory and honor that's due to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash. I'd like to give double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone that rule well. Peace and blessings and salutations to the hopeful elect. Noise in the gospel bride, living up the standard of Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, wherever it may be. More psyops, more psyops, more psyops. It says live updates, 1 dead, 2 in Dallas. Critical condition at the Dallas ICE facility. Shooting. And this I think they said it took place like around maybe, well, I got news early this morning. Now the times, it's really hard to tell because, you know, with Esau, with his gematria and his numerology, you know, these things are ritualistic. You know, they're ritual based. So a lot of times this is part of bigger agendas to get certain legislations to be pushed forth. As we know, they want to disarm the American population, which I don't know how well that's going to go because, you know, the American citizens are armed to their teeth. But it says here, officials said that ICE, or that the 3 people shot at the Texas field office are ICE detainees and no ICE officers were hurt. So allegedly the suicide guy, or the guy that let fire on an ICE facility, committed suicide, and I believe he killed like a migrant, if I'm not mistaken. You know, now it's lucky they didn't show the face of the individual, but we could quite guess that it was an Edomite because Esau, he partakes in 50% of these particular crimes when it comes to, you know, mass shootings, pedophilia, you know, robbery, larrency, fucking theft, white collar crimes. The so-called white man is behind it all for them to make up 28% of the population in America. But it says, what we know about the shooting, 3 detainees were shot at an ICE facility in Dallas this morning. Department of Homeland Security said in a statement. And we don't know how authentic these stories really are because, as I mentioned, Esau controls the narrative. But it says 1 person is dead, 2 others are in critical conditions, according to DHS, which DHS stands for Department of Human Services, if I'm not mistaken. Let's do a fact check on that real quick. We can look that up. No, Department of Homeland Security, Slovakia. Yep, that's the spirit. Homeland Security, not Human Services, because you do have a Department of Human Services as well. But it says no ICE officers were hurt in a shooting, but Dallas police said in a news conference the victims' identities will not be released at this time. Now, why is that? All right. But it says a shooter who was found dead with a self-inflicted gun wound has been identified as Joshua John, according to multiple senior law enforcement officials briefed on the investigation. So let's look this up and see if they give us some type of imaging of this guy, Josh, or whoever the hell he is. You know, he could be a MK Ultra victim, or he can be some suspect of Esau's military or some type of sleeper agent or sleeper cell, as we are in the years of polycrisis. But let's see what it says. I don't think they let's do this real quick. I'm assuming they won't show the let's see it this look like some Photoshop shit. Look like a generic ass picture. Photo release as suspect in Dallas. But you know, it's always the pale faced male. Okay, and yet these Edomites, they always trying to talk about their Christian values and all this other bullshit. But it be you niggas that's carrying out most of the crimes. You know? And that's the irony of it all. How you to be the so-called heroes and saviors and the founders of this new world. You're the Christian, you believe in God, you have friendly ideologies, but yet your hatred is above all other, okay? Because everybody else got to turn a blind eye to your crime, but when it comes to you, you're the only one that's able to exact vengeance. Okay, and that's actually in the Talmud. But it says, according to multiple senior law enforcement officials briefed on the investigation, it says one bullet found near the shooter contained a message that were anti-ICE in nature. And what's up with all these fucking dossiers, man? If you gonna carry out a hit, then you just gonna carry out a hit. But it says special agent in charge of the Dallas FBI, Joe Rothrick, said at a news conference, he added that the attack was an act of targeted violence. All right. It says the shooter fired multiple rounds from a nearby roof or an elevated position down into the field's office, Sally Port, an ICE spokesman confirmed. It says the motive behind the shooting or what the shooter was targeting is not immediately clear, but allegedly he killed the migrant. You know, so let's see how it plays out. Like I mentioned, these things they don't always be authentic, but we know Esau Edom, you know, he's at the helm of all this shit. So I got a video by Redacted, and they got this guy by the name of, what's his name? JJ, what's this nigga's name? I think his name was, hold on. They were just talking to him. This guy on the left, I think it's JJ Harrell or JJ Carell, which is a former U.S. Border and Control Customs agent. And also, I believe he was a former ICE agent too. So, yeah, let's see what comes of it. But I'm going to play a couple of minutes of this video. We're going to get a couple of precepts because terror is surrounding these devils on all sides, man. All right? So, here we go.
Who was it? Why would they want to do this? Why would they want to disrupt the entire telecommunications network near the United Nations? We have a former FBI whistleblower who knows a little too much about this on the cybersecurity side. We're going to talk with him on the show today. But first, another day, another brutal Antifa attack in America. This time, an alleged communist sympathizer named Joshua Jean was 29 years old. His father, by the way, reportedly worked for NATO, and that's allegedly where he got the gun as well. He opened fire on
Okay, so here we go. But now when you look at this guy, I mean, clearly you could tell he's an Edomite, you know, but when you look at this guy, he looked like he could be of some type of, he looked like he can be, if I'm not, I will almost say, well, no, I can't say that because we're looking at the dark features. He's definitely not Northern Kingdom, but he can be disguised as a Northern Kingdom if you put a beard on him, or a Syrian or a fucking Gadite, but you could clearly tell he's Esau. But they can twist this which way they decide, whatsoever they choose. You know, but allegedly this is the guy's father worked for NATO. And notice how all these plants, how they've been operating within these affairs, carrying out mass attacks. Like now they're blaming Bibi for the assassination of Captain Kirk, which we know that the state of Israel was behind all that, you know, and yet they're trying to, I think his name was Tyler Robinson, if I'm not mistaken, Tyler, and allegedly his boyfriend or girlfriend, whatever the hell they want to deem these people, these weirdos as, allegedly, there's been foils and there's been holes in these particular plots as to who carried out the shooting on this guy, Captain Kirk. You know, but all these shootings are coming frequent, okay?
Agents and illegal immigrants who were there, and pretty much anyone in the parking lot. According to eyewitnesses, anyone was near the ICE facility, killing 2 illegal aliens we know of specifically. One eyewitness said they were there waiting for an appointment. They were sitting in the parking lot, and suddenly the shooter was peppering the entire area. Cars, vans, windows were exploding all over the place. And she heard at least 20 shots. 20 shots. He used a sniper rifle, allegedly, from a rooftop location. He was clearly, at one point, he was trying to hit a van full of ICE agents, but it was an unmarked van. I think anyone with a brain realizes what his attempt was to hit this van, this unmarked van. We've seen all sorts of reports about ICE agents getting into these unmarked vans to go out in early morning hours to carry out raids. So he's there at an early morning hour and he's shooting at an ICE van. Did he think he was going to hit a whole van full of ICE agents and inadvertently?
And that's the thing. They're trying to get civil unrest because if this is an alleged attack on an ICE agent, which apparently it wasn't, they mentioned that he killed the migrant. But let's just say if that is the case, then that's another way for the federal government to declare war against the hostile or the hostility against the government, you know, because now people are gearing up for insurrection because the division is at an all-time high. But you can't trust Esau, man, as the scriptures say. Sirach 12:10, it says, never trust thy enemy, for it's like an iron rusted, so is his wickedness. So you can't trust this devil, man. And all the shit he's putting in the news, these shootings every other day, it's to the point that people are starting to say, like, man, this shit don't even make sense, man. All of a sudden we got shootings every other day because, you know, certain federal mandates are being passed in order to take civil liberties from people. And this is the time we're living in, man. Okay, the time when all bets are off and draconianism will be the main culprit of today's world. All right, to the point that you're going to have a digital ID in order to travel, and you're going to have some type of credential to prove that you're not a so-called terrorist. All right, it says, though he humbled himself and go crouching, yet take good heed and beware of him, and thou should be unto him as if thou hast wiped a looking glass, and thou should know that his rust have not been altogether wiped away. You see. So with that being said, man, you can't trust Esau. Okay, you can't trust the narrative that they're putting out, and everything is, you know, is worth a second look. Okay, matter of fact, let's look this up. Ignorant, small. Scripture say, be not ignorant of anything small or great. Okay, Ecclesiasticus 5, and I'm gonna start at verses 15. It says here, be not ignorant of anything in a great matter or of a small. So it's good to have an insight on what the hell is going on, whether it be whether it be minute or whether it be a national event. You know, like brother's been doing videos on this whole Captain Kirk ordeal for the last week and a half or so, you know, because, hey, you know, we're getting to the bottom as to what's truly happening, because we know that there's no transparency in Esau's system. All right. Matter of fact, tongue as a sharp razor. I think that's Psalms 52. It's a sharp razor, yup, working deceitfully. Yep, Psalms 52, and I'm gonna start at verses 2. It says, thy tongue devises mischiefs like a sharp razor working deceitfully. The news, okay? It says, thou lovest evil more than good, and lying rather than to speak righteousness, okay? Because like I said, this is all to stir the opinions of the of the people, so they can have a type of narrative to control people's minds, man. You know, and that's what it's always been about. Psalms 57, and I'm gonna start at 4. It says, my soul is among lions, and I lie even among them that are set on fire, even of the sons of men whose teeth are spears and arrows, and their tongue a sharp sword. Okay. Verses 6, it says, they have prepared a net for my steps, because this shit is a snare, man. My soul is bowed down, and they have digged a pit before me into the midst, whereof they are fallen themselves, man. Okay, because Esau is in a fallen state. So therefore, he gets off on controlling the people mentally, because it's like the scriptures say, unless he calls some, he doesn't rest unless he calls some to fall away. So they have a kick out of watching the division of the people arguing over this left and right paradigm nonsense, man. You know?
Ended up killing 2 illegal migrants that were in the back of that van. Who knows? Because he shot himself. So we don't know. But here was the police response. Watch.
Today at approximately 6:40 a.m., we received a assistant officer call. We responded to the call, got to the scene, and we later learned that we had 4 individuals that were shot, 2 of them deceased, including the shooter. The DPD was able to locate the shooter, who was deceased. We're going to be working this investigation shoulder to shoulder with our federal partners. The FBI is on scene, and right now I'm going to introduce you to the SAC of the Dallas Field Division, FBI Joe Rumrock.
Yeah, good morning. My name's Joe Rothrock. I'm the special agent in charge of the Dallas FBI Field Office. I want to first start by thanking our partners in local law enforcement, specifically the Dallas Police Department, for their quick and timely response. I can confirm at this time that the FBI is investigating this incident as an act of targeted violence. It is unfortunately just the most recent example we've seen of targeted violence, to include here in North Texas, where back on July 4th, we saw a coordinated attack carried out against an immigration detention center in Alvarado, Texas.
So that goes on from there. FBI.
And what are the chances of all this shit happening, man? This shit is getting sloppy, bro. This dude is getting sloppy, man. This is why the scriptures say that the counsel of the Ford is carried headlong, and he should be in straits, because, I mean, he's in positions of difficulties, trying his best to get his new world order up and running, and yet he's stagnant with it. You know, he's making progress, but, I mean, it's to the point, like, either you gonna fucking do it or you not, man. All right? Let's go on with the next stage of the process, man. You know? It's like, what are you doing?
Director Kash Patel, once again, taking to social media, has to get his message out there, and reports that they found bullets.
And this dude, Kash Patel, all right, this the fucking coolie, whatever the hell he is, he's a goddamn clown. All right, the fact that you have a foreigner over the agency of the United States is fucking crazy, man. It's ludicrous. And he's been called out as being a damn liar, because before he became official, he admitted it that the FBI had the exclusive thing on the Epstein files. But now when he gets sworn in, now all of a sudden they don't have that much information on it, which shows you they playing in you people's face. And even if the Epstein files were released, you people ain't gonna do a goddamn thing anyway. What are you gonna do? Okay, you know that all the elites, all your presidents, your politicians, your state, city mayors and governors, your celebrities, all of them are on that damn list. And yet you know this, but yet you claim you want it for proof. But even if you did get the quote unquote proof, you ain't gonna do shit. Okay, you gonna wake up, you gonna take your ass to work, gonna pay your taxes, gonna pay your motherfucking child support, and you gonna be a good slave. All right, you ain't gonna do nothing no time soon, especially you damn niggas. All right, excuse my verbiage, but it's just enough is enough. The shit is getting old. All right, let's get on with it already.
On the rooftop that said anti-ice. Anti-ice. Apparently everyone's like now drawing things on bullets. I guess this is like the new thing, but if that's the case, if this is true, if you believe Kash Patel, if you believe the FBI, like, I mean, one of the most corrupt organizations in the world. So now we're like believing the FBI, just like we believed the official narrative of Tyler Robinson as the lone gunman in the Charlie Kirk assassination. So everyone's just writing on bullets now. Okay. People saying, was this some sort of a false flag operation, that he was actually trying to kill illegal aliens, and he's some sort of a white supremacist? He's a right-wing nut job. He's a neo-Nazi. CNN doesn't have any idea what the motive is. Watch.
Those ICE agents not shot or hurt. We do not know, however, the motive of the shooter. That still remains an open question and will be under investigation, and we'll be continuing to ask our sources.
So CNN has no idea why you would get up early, get a rifle, and go to an ICE facility. Okay. All right. You know, I guess I come back to like Occam's razor on this, but who the hell knows? But so I find this part of the story interesting, because immediately big tech started like scraping or wiping his social media platforms and started like deleting stuff on the posts, like historical posts, Facebook. Here's his social media. Here's his Facebook page, and you can see his little avatar there is sort of a long-term old school meme, which has, you know, sort of a communist sickle and hammer. And this is an old meme which says "Glorious Exposition, Comrade." This goes back many, many years to 4chan. I mean, this is like an old school meme. So did he love communism? Who knows? There was also Antifa messages on his social media posts that are old. They were there for a long time. All of this to say, it's being spun any which way. We asked you earlier, was this some sort of a false flag operation?
Yeah, this is why we tell you brothers, because this shit look made up, bro. Like, all of a sudden he killed himself. Get out of here. You kill one migrant and then all of a sudden you kill yourself. It don't even make sense, especially if it's in so-called legal and you a white boy, you would have got off, to say the least. It's not adding up. Going back to Sirach 12. And I'm gonna end it after this, man. I'm gonna play a little bit more minutes of the video from when this JJ Correll clown comes on and see what he's talking about. But at the end of the day, they're trying to start up a civil war. And they're gonna have to push harder because these people, they're too docile. But it says, set him not by thee, lest when he have overthrown thee, he stand up in thy place. Neither let him sit at thy right hand, lest he seek to take thy seat. And that thou, it says, and thou at the last remember my words and be pricked therewith. Okay, so remember. All right. It says, but who will pity a charmer that is bitten with the serpent, or any such as come near nigh wild beasts? Okay. So you have to understand this devil, man. You have to understand that he's pushing narratives in order to push certain agendas, man, because they're definitely losing the information war. All right. Job 18:11. I'm gonna come back to this. Job 18:11. And it reads, it says, terror should make him afraid on every side and should drive him to his feet. And if you notice, he's funding both sides. He's funding the left and the right. So at the end of the day, it goes back to Esau. No matter what Antifa or, nope, I ain't doing that, buddy. I'm coming in here. No matter what Antifa says, no matter what the BLM and all this other Proud Boys and, you know, all this other shit that you guys are funding, at the end of the day, it's all funded by the left. Well, the left hand, which is Esau. It says here, and terror should make him afraid on every side and should drive him to his feet. His strength should be hunger bitten and destruction should be ready at his side. Okay, so he's ready to perish because Yahweh Shai is getting ready to come and finally put this man out of commission. Finally, you know, it's been a long time coming. And honestly speaking, I pray it speeds up. It says it should devour the strength of his skin. Even the firstborn of death should devour his strength, and his confidence should be rooted out of his tabernacle, and it should bring him to the king of terrors. And it should dwell in his tabernacle because it is none of his, and brimstone should be scattered upon his habitation, right? Fire, the nuclear missiles, man. All right, Job 20:24, and it reads, let me see, 20, is it 20 and 24? Yep, 20 and 25, it says, it is drawn and coming out of the body. This is going into the missiles. Yet a glittering sword coming out of his gall, and terrors are upon him. Okay, so there we go, terrors. So with that, all praises and glory and honor that's due to Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. Gonna keep an eye on this thing. Lord's will you edified until the next lesson. Shalom. See what this clown talking about here.
Violence. It is unfortunately just the most recent example we've seen of targeted violence, to include here in North Texas, where back on July 4th, we saw a coordinated attack carried out against an immigration detention center in Alvarado, Texas.
So that goes on from there. FBI Director Kash Patel, once again, taking to social media, has to get his message out there, and reports that they found bullets on the rooftop that said anti-ICE. Anti-ICE. Apparently, everyone's like now drawing things on bullets. I guess this is like the new thing. But if that's the case, if this is true, if you believe Kash Patel, if you believe the FBI, like, I mean, one of the most corrupt organizations in the world. So now we're like believing the FBI, just like we believed
agents not
Biden administration. 24 years as a supervisor. And he's been warning us all about this. He's the author of the great book Treason, which I encourage you to read, the systemic destruction of the United States under the Biden administration. So, JJ, just good to have you back on the show here, of course, as always. Just at a 30,000-foot level, you see the lines being drawn on both sides right now. What do you make of this event today?
I think this is just the beginning. Just the beginning. You and I have had this discussion multiple times on the air and off, that the blood will be spilled on the streets of America. They will be of illegal aliens that are in custody, and that fight with the agents is going to be the agents and officers are going to, blood's going to be spilled, and then just random bystanders like this guy's just randomly shooting his long arm all over the place. And I lay this all at the feet at two groups of people. First, the Democrats. You have last night Gavin Newsom from California saying that these are authoritarian thugs led by authoritarian leader Trump, and the thugs are ICE agents. They also say John Larson from Connecticut's calling us Gestapo and SS Nazis. You have the minority leader Hakeem Jeffries talking about how bad we are, that we need to be unmasked. We're going to dox everybody. We're going to let everybody know who they are. And the other side is, quote, our side, the Republican side. We are so impotent. We are so reactionary. We are never get ahead of the problem and say, okay, I identify the problem, now let's go attack it, let's arrest it, let's put it in jail. No, we just sit back and we just act as if it's all gonna play out, everything's gonna be okay. We watched Charlie Kirk's neck explode and die. We don't even know who the real shooter is. We don't know what's happened. Now we have ICE officers being shot, and you and Natalie could have played 24 hours of clip after clip after clip of ICE officers literally fighting for their lives every single day. This is unacceptable. How did we get here in America?
Well, okay, let's talk about Gavin Newsom, because he just signed into effect this no secret police law, which prohibits federal and local law enforcement from wearing facial coverings. And now the federal government is going to contest that and say, we actually don't have to do what you say. So what is the rationale that ICE agents do have to do that? Let's just talk tactically about what ICE is and is not, because here's the thing. I'm weary of this repetitive cycle we're in. Is something terrible happens, we all go to the internet and try to extrapolate something that is that is part of our conviction bias. He's a leftist, he's a rightist, we think this, we don't know this. Kash Patel makes it worse on his Twitter feed. We effing don't know. We are tired of this. So what is the message we need to know about ICE and why they might be a target? And then we can look at why migrants might be a target.
Well, ICE officers are the target because I collectively put myself in there as a retired Border Patrol agent. We're doing what the left does not want. The left wants demographic complete change and upheaval in America. That's how you fundamentally transform a nation. We are doing what they say is evil work, the work of Satan. Now, I think this is a great conversation to have, Natalie, about should ICE officers wear masks. I'm cut from the old cloth of law enforcement, and I'm being offered a job to go back and work as an ICE special agent. I'm just waiting for my entry on duty date. One thing that I will promise you, I will never wear a mask. Never. Now, I'm not bagging on the agents and officers that are wearing masks because they're afraid for their family and their lives. However, I'm not going to wear a mask because officer presence is paramount in law enforcement. I want them to see the reaction on my face, that I have no fear, that I'm going to come to you. And now as I move forward to engage with you, I want you to clearly see on my face that I'm going to do everything I can, and I mean everything I can, to get you in custody. And that means if you bring a knife, I'm bringing my gun. If I have to pull the trigger, I'm going to pull the trigger. People need to see the physical reaction in my face in order to understand what my motives and actions are. So as much as I can't stand Gavin Newsom, I want my agents and officers, I want people to see our faces now. Because we live in such a vile nation of no law and order, and we have mental patients, I understand why ICE officers, Border Patrol agents, etc., have their faces covered. Gavin Newsom's an idiot. Because he wants to form some law in California, I, being a federal agent, are under the jurisdiction of the federal government. I don't have to follow your state laws. I'm a federal agent. I can do whatever I want to do under the statutes of the United States of America.